Hey, hello. How's everybody doing? Welcome. Welcome back to our movie review podcast, Cinemacast, right here on our YouTube channel and on our Rumble channel. If you guys want to keep up to date with us on social media and our Discord server, links for everything are right down below. So, welcome to today's feature. This is a found footage horror movie from 2022. Yes, I can be a sucker for found footage movies, even if they are ridiculously bad, whether it's the plot that's horrible, or the acting, or the script, or the story, whatever the case may be. These found footage horror movies, they do have a certain place in a lot of people's hearts because I'm not sure how to explain why people are so attracted to these movies like I am. I guess being it's so surreal that when you watch a movie like this, especially today's day and age, when you have platforms like, well, the platform that you're watching this podcast on, YouTube, a lot more people have taken to doing vlogging videos, video blogs. Instead of just writing something down, they just take a camera anywhere and film their life, and then, well, they can either script something to happen or something can happen in real life, and it becomes some kind of entertainment for somebody on a platform. So you have movies like this, you got found footage movies. They've been around for 30 plus years. Now, I know everybody will sit there and argue the fact that, okay, Blair Witch Project was the first of its kind. No, it wasn't. There have been found footage movies before that. I can't place them off the top of my head which ones they were, but there were movies that came out in the early 90s, maybe even a couple in the late 80s. The Blair Witch Project was one of the first few films not only to be a found footage movie, but to bring it to the mainstream, to be released theatrically, of course, and it had people taken for suckers, of course. A movie like The Blair Witch, taking place in a town called Burkittsville, Maryland, which is not even the real name for the town. You talk about these three hikers, you say this footage was found and pieced together, and now there's nothing in the movie that states it was based on a true story or true events or anything like that, but the best trick a movie like that played off was it had people believing, oh my God, these people really did go through this, they really did disappear, until you see them walking around in public and you're like, wait a minute, weren't you in that movie? So the movie was a lie. And then you got the diehard fans of the movie that take trips up to the surrounding area to visit the woods. They wanted to find the three backpackers who got lost up there. They wanted to see if there is a Blair Witch, and of course they do get scared off by local authorities and such. But that's how powerful the impact was of that movie, especially movies of the subgenre for found footage. It's quite amazing that movies like this have such a general impact on people when they watch them. And maybe if it's something that's like, okay, this is not believable, but there is a strong sense of suspense, a sense of terror when it comes to movies like this. It's something that you might expect or you may not expect, and when you do see it, it's like, oh my God, what was that kind of thing? So movies like this have been around for about 30 years or more, and this movie right here, not only does it have a fictional plot to it, but this is an actual place that actually exists and really is haunted. So the last radio call is based on events surrounding the Yorktown Memorial Hospital, which is located in Yorktown, Texas. And this was said to be one of the most haunted haunted abandoned hotel, not hotel, hospital. I mean, I don't know why I'm thinking about hotel, even though I have a trip coming up here soon for Gettysburg where I'm going to be staying at a haunted motel, but you guys will see that separately. But yeah, this is said to be one of the most haunted hospitals in the country. And it's a pretty big hospital. You know, I know there has been people who have ventured in there during the day to film some videos. I think this hospital was filmed on shows like Ghost Adventures. You gotta watch when it comes to something like that, because these places that are said to be extremely haunted and they are protected by the public for various reasons. You know, people will go in there and vandalize these places. Something will happen to them. They end up getting hurt, file a lawsuit, you know, anything of that nature, even though they know that they are not allowed on these properties. Oh, excuse me. So, this movie has a plot that takes place June 30th, 2018. And it starts out, and mind you, there is going to be a little bit of spoiler to this movie. So if you have not watched this movie yet, go check it out and come back to the review. Now, this movie is not too hard to find, people. If you have an account or if you have the app Tubi TV, it is free on Tubi TV to watch. You do not have to go to Amazon to pay for a rental fee. You don't have to buy it off any platform. You can go to Tubi TV. This movie is free to watch, so go check it out. And it's not even that long either. The movie's only an hour and 16 minutes, people. It's not even 90 minutes long, but it's still long enough to get you hooked into it just a little bit. Now, I will say the story, it does lead down the road kind of cringe-like. And it's not, it's straightforward, but it does it in a way where it's very tongue-in-cheek, it's very cringy. The acting is not even nowhere near being top-notch or even notch at all. But you could definitely see, like, with the setting in the movie, the surroundings of this place, and it almost makes you want to take a trip down to Texas and see if these things actually do happen in the movie. So, give you a brief synopsis of what this movie is about. On June 30th, 2018, police officer David SERLING, he went missing inside an undisclosed abandoned hospital. Using his recovered body cam footage, his wife attempts to piece together what happened to him on that horrible night. And that's basically the synopsis for it. Don't try to Wikipedia this film, because there is no Wikipedia for it, sadly. I think because, you know, this is basically like an indie release. It's released on free platforms. This was not a theatrical release, so there's not a whole lot to really go off a movie like this. And it stars Sarah Frolick. And I had to look her up. I was like, who is this? I never heard of her. She was an artist, a musician, actress, and genre enthusiast. And she is in a few other movies that I saw that even seem to be found footage movies, like A Town Full of Ghosts, Deadware, and one that doesn't look like it's found footage called Angel, which is upcoming. So yeah, she was only in 3 movies so far, and I think one of them I did watch. I think it was called, Deadware. That one I did watch. That one was really fucking... I would have to do a review on that movie altogether. That's another one of those found footage movies. This one was really dumb. I'm going to have to do a separate video on that. You guys got to wait for that one to hear my thoughts on that. So yeah, she was in 3 of these movies. I've seen 2 of them. I got to see the other one. So she plays the main character, Sarah, in the movie, and she is on the investigation with a cameraman who she hires to follow her and do a documentary and to follow up on what happened with her husband. Because the movie opens up with a couple police officers investigating screams and something possibly going on in the hospital. And of course, one of the police officers ends up disappearing. You don't know what he ends up seeing. You don't know what happens to him. And then it cuts to her. She's doing a documentary. She says that there was camera footage, but the police department and the town, they didn't want to release it. It's like they were trying to hide something. Even the townspeople were trying to basically sweep it under the rug with all these events. So even when she feels like giving up at a certain point of trying to find out what happened to her husband, people still try to contact her at this point and say, hey, I got information. Here you go. Look into it. Even at one point in the movie, it almost kind of seemed like it was going to jump into that horror anthology subgenre where she's watching certain footage and it's all related to certain other areas with other police officers. So I will say, I will say, like, I thought it was going to try to switch gears on me, but it didn't. It did stick to its guns and stick to the original plot of the movie. Now, even though she does go and she visits this hospital once or twice, there's only probably maybe about 10 minutes of footage where she is investigating, looking for her husband. Now, one part of the story that really was off to me was when she was investigating, she came across a couple names of these shaman, I think they call them, you know, Native American spiritualists basically, and healers. And one of them was still alive. You know, his brother ended up dying or disappearing. So she goes and meets with this guy out at his house. And the whole 5 minutes or so that she spends talking with this guy, it is just so cringeworthy, you know, to hear him explain about Native American rituals and spirits and witches and such. Even goes on to mentioning something called the Red Sister, which is like a native witch who haunts at night for souls to feed on and stuff like that. And this is something that you would hear out of a very cringe-worthy horror movie. And just his overall performance in the scene on camera, I just couldn't take too seriously at all. It just felt very out of place for a movie like this, especially about a location that truly does exist, that is truly haunted, but it's almost like the cast, this very small cast of people, was just having a little bit too much fun filming this movie, piecing everything together. So I could not take it too seriously. And of course, there was another scene that follows. Something happens to him, and it's just very corny. It's very cringy. But luckily, it doesn't even last that long. It lasts maybe about 5 minutes, and she ends up disappearing. And then there's a couple instances where I'm like, okay, something happened to this woman, or maybe something happened to the cameraman. How did they end up in the next scene? You know, did they end up, you know, escaping this pure evil that's chasing them, or that they're chasing? And then the next day, it's like, oh, nothing really happened. Let's go and continue to follow our investigation, shall we? So eventually, toward the end, like I said, there's going to be some spoilers. So if you don't want to hear the spoilers, fast forward this or go watch the movie. So the entire movie, the entire time, we are led to believe that her husband ended up dying or disappearing, but it turns out that he was still held captive in this hospital by this Red Sister, by this witch. And her and the cameraman venture back into this place for the last 10 minutes of the film, and she does eventually find her husband cowering in the chapel. And then she tries to ask him what all happened, and he tells her, you should not be here, you cannot be here. Next thing you know, 3 a.m. hits, which is the bewitching hour. In a lot of movies and a lot of folklore, they tell you the bewitching hour, 3 a.m., is the strongest for the spiritual world. I would have to research more into that for another podcast series, but that's in a lot of movies, especially movies like Amityville Horror, where it's either 3 a.m. or 3:15, the bewitching hour, where the portal opens, things happen, spirits enter our world and such. So you do end up seeing who this red sister is, who this witch is. It's not too all terrifying. There is a chase that ensues throughout the hospital. She's trying to get her husband back and ends up, when she's trying to escape, she's taken back in, camera drops, and that's it. Then you got this little monologue scene that says the next day we went back. I'm like, who's we? Did she actually escape? No, it's just a cameraman. The cameraman went back, found the camera, filmed a little bit of the area during the day, you know, where things were placed at the night before, and they're not there now. And then you got another scene where somebody who they met throughout the movie and said, hey, I got one more video that I shot that night, and I'll send it to you. And it turns out in the video, it is the girl Sarah herself in the window, hovering above the main entry door. And then that is the end of the movie. Now, it had a very, very lackluster ending to this movie. And I will say, I almost felt satisfied, but I was not satisfied with this film. Now, like I said, I can be a sucker for found footage movies, but in this case, with a movie like this, at times I feel like I cannot take it quite seriously. There's just so many areas that are, you know, there's just like gray areas in this film where it's very tongue-in-cheek. You don't know how to interpret it. The acting was really bad. But I will say the main star of this film was the location itself. Like I said, you can look this up. There is a website for it. They do offer ghost tours if you are in the area. This place is real, and there's a little bit of history behind it. I plan on doing a separate video on it, so just hang tight, guys. After this film comes out, you will be seeing that video pop up somewhere as well. This movie is not based on true events. Do not interpret that in any way. You know, these events never really happen. The place itself, yes, it is haunted, and from what I've read, there has been recorded over 2,000 deaths that have occurred at this place since its time of opening to its time of closure in the 1980s. So yeah, there is definitely some really spiritual activity with this place. There are videos on the platform where you can look up about this hospital and learn more about it. However, like I said, the main plot of the movie, you know, it takes place around a real haunted area, but the story, they just had to add a story in there. You know, some cheap special effects, the way the camera glitches out. Now, that's another thing about movies like this. When it's very paranormal, you will have areas of where the camera is filming. If they're in such a bad area for paranormal activity, yeah, the camera tends to glitch out at times before you actually see something pop up. And it in some movies it does get a little too over the top with things, and it becomes a real nuisance. It becomes very, very annoying. But I will say, you know, all in all, aside from the story, aside from these horrible actors, they're not well known. They are not well known actors. Like I said, the main actor, Sarah Frolick, she was only in 3 or 4 movies that are indie like this. and she is not that grand of an actress when it comes to movies like this. You know, she doesn't nail anything at all. I feel like her character was very dull throughout the movie. Very, very dull. Like, yes, her character was very concerned. She was focused more on trying to find out what happened to her husband in this place. But other than that, watching it, you're just like, yeah, she doesn't really steal the show. She is just there as comedic value. That's all. Even the cameraman, like, you hear the cameraman talking in certain areas, like he's trying to blur himself out. He doesn't want to be on camera. He doesn't want to be heard, but you can hear him say certain things. So whoever's running the camera for the movie, they just don't want to be a part of it. You know, you very rarely have any dialogue from this person. And it's just mostly these two people. You have three other people that pop in the movie, and one of them was just like, you know what, get out of here, I don't want to be part of this, and that's the last time you hear about that person, you know? So this movie, I will say, if you do check it out, if you really want to watch this movie, luckily you do not have to waste any money. You don't have to spend any money on any streaming platform to watch it. Check it out as soon as you can. It is on Tubi TV. The only thing, if you're worried about losing anything, is an hour and 16 minutes watching this movie. But I will say, just the atmosphere of places like this is something that a lot of ghost hunting enthusiasts, this is what they want to do, especially those who they don't even have high-tech gear to do something that they want to do. But I always will say this, like, if you are somebody like me who is into traveling to places like this, who is very interested in things like this, do take caution. Places like this, they are heavily watched by local authorities, security officers. Yes, you will be arrested. Yes, you will be ticketed and fined, which is actually a scene in the movie where they trespass for the first time, and they do end up getting caught by the authorities. But, you know, that whole process of them booking them or whatever is cut from the movie. But she does say she ended up with a ticket for trespassing and a $2,000 fine. And that's why I say, you know what? If you know somebody who can get you in there, if you're able to talk to the local authorities and say, hey, I'm this person, I'm here to investigate this, I'm doing a documentary or whatever, do get permission to enter places like this, because there are reasons why places like this, they are heavily guarded and protected by the public and the local authorities. Now, there's even security officers and police officers out there that do share footage of things like this, and they are scared themselves to even be there, to even be part of that whole experience of monitoring and watching places like this. But, you know, to each their own. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short for this episode, guys. There's really nothing more I can really say about this movie but give it my rating. I could probably give a couple of user reviews, and there are a lot of negative user reviews for this movie, unless there is some 5-star reviews. Yes, there are a couple of them, but I will read one of them. This one seems to be a little bit more down to earth. This is a 5 out of 10 rating. It had its moments. Not the best, but certainly not the worst found footage movie I've seen. It's not filled with annoying teenagers arguing on a road trip. It's not a group of people making stupid decisions. The acting is fine. Well, to me, it was very tongue-in-cheek and bland. I won't say it was fine, but, you know, people do have their opinions of it. Some good jump scares. I wouldn't say there was a ton of jump scares in it. I will say, like, just, you know, things popping in the camera so subtly, and you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't there before. Don't get me wrong, it's not Grave Encounters, but I enjoyed it. Only an hour 15 minutes long, so quite quickly to scary bits. If you really can't stand found footage films, it's obvious it's not going to be for you. But if you like the genre, go for it and watch it. And there's one here that says basically it fell flat. Giving spoilers, there were some good parts, and honestly, I think the whole movie had been the cops' body cam footage of them going through the asylum and encountering creepy things. It would have been good. I like the body cam footage. I like the voices and screams coming through the radio. The part where they go to the other cop's house and find him was creepy, but the rest just really fell flat. I honestly found all the parts that weren't from an asylum boring and unnecessary and downright annoying. Did we need to see her passed out in a drunken haze multiple times? No. Did we need to awkwardly watch her puke up egg yolks while passed out? No. Was her character extremely annoying? Yes. I will admit, though, I did kind of like the giant long monster hand grabbing her in the car. And yes, those are pretty steep spoilers. And one more review. Good found footage, good love story. I definitely wouldn't call it a love story. It's just a story about a woman who's looking for her husband who disappeared. Surprisingly good. The leader actor was deadpan enough considering the circumstances. Some scary scenes, but overall found footage horror movie that's all about the strength of love. I would prefer a slightly different ending. I recommend. Like I said, I don't see it much of a love story, really. It's just a movie about a woman who is trying to find out what happened to her husband. She wants her husband back. But all in all, there's nothing much of a love story going on. It's just a woman and her cameraman investigating his place, trying to figure out what happened to him the night he disappeared and see if he's still alive. That's all this movie is. It's an actual haunted area that is surrounded with this story that can either be dull, bland, and annoying, or it could be something that you actually pick up and enjoy. So my rating for this movie, I will definitely give this movie a 4.5 out of 10 myself. Did I enjoy this movie? I kind of enjoyed it, but it's just something about it that really did fall flat for me at certain times, especially where I felt like I was going to pass out in a sense, but not too much. I will say the real star of this movie was the hospital. Even if there were some paranormal related things happening throughout the movie, some of it was very unnecessary. You know, the movie should have either just focused on police body cam footage, or it just should have been mostly related to the hospital itself. That should have been the big star of the film and nothing else. So that's why I give this movie a 4.5 out of 10. Now, if you still want to check it out, like I said, the movie, it's on Tubi TV, free to find. Go check it out, guys. And that does it for today's episode of Cinemacast. I do like to thank you guys for being here and checking it out. Please hit that like and subscribe button down below if you have yet to do so. This was today's feature for Cinemacast, last radio call released in 2022. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And until next time, we will catch you right back here at the cinema.